Hey, Seawolf community, Chancellor Sandine here with another segment of Ask a UAA Expert. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Paul Dunscomb. I'm chair of the history department here at UAA. I teach East Asian history, but I also teach a course on disaster, which includes a section on global pandemics. What does the COVID-19 pandemic most resemble historically? The closest analogy is the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which actually lasted into 1920. Also, it began in southwestern Kansas and quickly spread throughout U.S. troops being mobilized for the American Expeditionary Forces in France to the United States, then Europe, then globally. It's called the Spanish flu because Spain, being neutral, was the only country where there was open news reporting about the arrival of the pandemic. And that, in many respects, is the biggest difference between what's happening now and what happened then, apart from any difference between COVID-19 and the H1N1 flu virus. That is, we're operating in a situation now where we have access to an enormous amount of information about COVID-19, and that has helped galvanize a response very different from what happened in 1918. How did people respond to the 1918 pandemic, and what lessons are there in that for us? So we talk a lot about flattening the curve, that is, trying to get the total number of cases down by stopping it at an early stage or giving it a less friendly environment. And two examples of one that worked and one that didn't from 1918 are the example of St. Louis, which very quickly established measures for what we now call social distancing, closing bars and restaurants and theaters and various other things, whereas Philadelphia, for various reasons, actually had, just as the flu arrived, did a massive Liberty Bond parade in the middle of the city, and within a week, all the hospitals were totally overwhelmed. So these kinds of social distancing are really critical for flattening the curve in this respect. What lessons are there for Alaska from the 1918 pandemic? So it's important to note that the pandemic came in waves. There was kind of an initial mild wave in the spring of 1918, a much more virulent wave in August through October of 1918, and a final echo kind of in 1919, 1920. That second wave didn't actually hit Alaska until the late winter and spring of 1919. And what that experience demonstrated was that isolation is important. So for people who have come to the outside or come back to Alaska from the outside, that 14-day self-quarantine, that not mixing with other people to make sure that you are free of the virus and not bringing it with you to Alaska, is actually a very important lesson that we can take from our experience 100 years ago.